Hello, and welcome back to Brick Gaming Wide Show. Today I'm here with my deck profile for Runick Horus, and I've been really interested in trying out this deck ever since Horus became legal with a god, and the deck is actually surprisingly good, and a lot of matchups can feel relatively free, so I'll get right into this deck and explain kind of why it's so good and what it does. So first off, of course, 3 Imseti. This card's really good. Searches for King Sarcophagus, and then draws 1 card by discarding itself and 1 other card in your hand. Also, you can special summon back from the graveyard if you control a King Sarcophagus once per turn. And finally, if another card you control leaves the field because of opponent's card effect, you can send 1 card on the field to the graveyard. It doesn't target. So it's really good, really strong, kind of like a worse Dingirsu, but the hand effect is really strong on it. Next up is Dinomorphia. All these guys share the same effect of being able to summon back from the graveyard with King Sark. So that's really cool with each of these. This one also another card you control leaves the field. Draw cards for each different name of monster you control. So this card can actually draw you a lot of cards, which is pretty nice. Then there's Happy. Happy is just the same except for 1 card leaves the field. It adds up to 2 or targets 2 cards. Adds them back to either your hand or shuffles into the deck, and this can apply to either player, so you could target something in your opponent's graveyard or banished, and either return it to their deck or hand as well. So it's a really good, really versatile card. Definitely the best on-field effect in my opinion. And then finally there's Queb, and Queb basically just provides protection. It's a really bad one. It's a bad one, but you play it because you kind of have to in this build. So that's all of the horse monsters you play, which is all of them. Then for next part, we play 3 Gen. Gen is the one that, so I should also grab this one, Ken. So Gen or Ken can summon each other to your opponent's side of the field. So if you control a Gen, you can activate its effect, summon Ken to your opponent's side of the field, and in vice versa. So Gen, when it's summoned to your opponent's side of the field, discards 1 card from their hand, which is your opponent's choice, so it's not always the best. And then Ken is the one that you want to summon, and it allows you to draw 2 and discard 1. So it's really pretty good. You're getting some free card advantage, really. And there's also other reasons you play these guys, but they're really good and just really strong, and can helps with consistency. Because this deck, the one thing that does kind of struggle with is consistency, and you get brick hands. But overall, that's pretty alright though, because that can play out brick hands, which is really nice. Then for the Runics, 3 tip, 3 destruction, 3 freezing curses, 3 flashing fire, 3 slumber, 1 storm, and then 2 fountain. At this point, everyone should be pretty aware of what these cards do, but basically it's just the main engine of the deck, and this is how you win the game. And you can win the game in about 2 turns if you get the right opening hand, like an optimal opening hand. And then with an average hand, you can win in about 3 turns, decking your opponent out. And the deck's fast. It is a very fast deck. Now, the reason I don't play more Runics is because I only really want to stick to pretty much the good ones, like the ones that actually do stuff, except for Smiting Storm, just because it does come up when your opponent starts scale low deck count. It can just be the card that wins you the game. So, that's why I don't really play the other ones, just because I don't see them doing enough. However, I did test with them quite a bit. I've been testing this deck for quite a while, and I've played through a lot of different versions. I think just going with like a smaller runic count is perfectly fine. You don't need to go crazy with the runics. You're going to see them no matter what because you're drawing so many cards. Next up, 3 King Sarcophagus. Of course, to search off of Imseti, you want to see this card all the time, as much as you can. Same with Imseti. Seeing either this or Imseti is just what you want to see. And this card is pretty good. So this is how your horses summon themselves back from the graveyard. It makes it so that your horses can't be destroyed by like non-targeting card destruction. So like you don't lose to Raigeki Dark Hole. Those cards do nothing in this matchup. If your opponent does Raigeki or Dark Hole you can just laugh at them because it does nothing. Then also, up to 4 times per turn, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard and then send a Horus from your deck to the graveyard. So that's how you really get your graveyard loaded up with Horus cards most of the time. And then finally, because, that's not enough effects. When a Horus monster battles, once per turn when a Horus monster battles, it's a soft once per turn. So if you have like 3 of these on the field, it can be kind of funny, but it'll never come up. But if your opponent like battles a Horus monster, you can just send that monster to the graveyard, non-targeting removal. Super nice. super good way to clear boards. And most people forget about the last effect because they're like, oh, he's just saying cards. Oh, okay. And then you go battle and you just beat over something way bigger than any of your horses, and yeah, feels pretty good. So next up, I play 3 triple tactics talents. This goes with the Gin and Kin pile. So, everyone should know what tactics does, but basically, Gin and Kin allows you to use it since you'll be summoning it during your main phase. And then when you summon one to the other side of the field, boom. Now your opponent's technically activate a monster effect. So that feels pretty nice whenever you do that. And usually, like in most cases, you're just going to draw 2 cards. I mean, there's usually no point taking Kin back unless you have a hand where you're just already super set up and you just don't need to take. But most of the time, you're just going to draw more cards because why wouldn't you want to draw more cards? Next up is 3 triple tactics thrust. So I do not own 3. I only own 1. So I have borrow 2 of them for the tournament, which, unfortunate, but does happen when you don't own every single card in the game. But I at least own 1, I guess. So that's really like the biggest thing that I need like get to finish up this deck is just 2 more thrust. But this is just so you can grab your talents through the game kin stuff. Another cool thing is that these cards are just combo cards now in the deck. They just allow you to go further into your deck, just allow you to play what you want to play. And then even if you don't do kin and kin stuff, if your opponent hand traps you during the main phase or really plays on your turn at all, you just feel really nice with these cards, and just maxing them out is really what you want to do. Yeah, and then for the final parts of this deck, I have 1 reinforcement to go ahead and search Gin. You're never searching Kin. Never search Kin. 1 called by, and 1 Canopic Protector. So these cards are pretty obvious. And then Canopic Protector, I want to play more. I want to play 2, but I want to keep the deck at 40. And Canopic Protector does nothing by itself. If you see this plus no Horus cards, it's just a dead card. I mean, it's nice to discard off of Hugin because kind of a free discard, or send it off of King Sark from your hand to the graveyard. But honestly, yeah. But it has a really cool effect. So like once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you special summon a Horus monster from your grave or hand, so it doesn't target. So that's pretty nice. And then you can't summon that monster again for the rest of the turn. So, a little bit unfortunate, but, still, on your opponent's turn, it just feels nice, so it's just getting all your guys back for free. And then if this card would leave the field, or would be sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can just reset it, but it banishes when it leaves the field, so, that kind of sucks, since it doesn't always, reset, indefinitely. But with Happy, you can just get this card back if it ever gets banished, and most of the time, if you see this card, your opponent usually has other things they worry about more than Canopic. So yeah, that's the main deck, 40 cards. I do not want to go over 40. I see lists out there with over 40, and for this deck, I just think consistency is the best, since there are some consistency problems with the deck, mainly in regards to the Horus. Like, the Runic stuff is always good, Gin and Kin are always good, but sometimes you can brick on the Horus monsters if you get, a bad opening hand of them. So that's really where the consistency problem is at. I wouldn't necessarily call it, well, it kind of is a consistency problem, but, that's really the biggest struggle with this deck, is just seeing too many Horus cards in your opening hand, and then not being able to do anything with them. For the extra deck, I played 1 IP, kind of self-explanatory, but it's good. It's good. This card actually does come up a lot with Canopic. If you see these 2 cards together, plus Horus stuff, you're feeling pretty nice. Otherwise, IP is just good, generic card. 1 dark. And Imseti is a dark, so pretty easy going to this guy. You play way more Imseti than any other Horus monster, so it's actually not too hard to make this guy, and there's a lot of good points where you can bring this guy up. 1 Selene, I found myself making this card a ton. I mean, this card just comes in clutch so often. It allows you to go for game. It allows you to set up your board further. It just is really good all together. And there's always 3 spells either on the field or in the graveyard. So, yeah, the card just is pretty much always live. 1 Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn's just good. Just a good card, just card shuffle. So usually off IP, I usually make Unicorn. Usually depending, it just depends. If you have Canopic Protector, though, there's other options. 1 Appaloosa. Made this card at least, I made it once during, once or twice during the day when I when I played this. One time I just made a 4-material Appaloosa going first and said, break my board. This deck's ending boards are not the most impressive, but you end with like 6 cards in your hand, which are usually all Runic cards. So like you make this super unimpressive board of like 3 or 4 cards, but you have like 6 Runic cards in hand. So, you know, that's okay. But yeah, it actually came in pretty clutch. Definitely a really strong card. 1 access code. It's one of your best removal options because this deck doesn't always have like the right type of removal. Like there's tons of removal in this deck, but a lot of the removal is just like super specific, and access code is just a easy way to remove stuff off the board. 1 Saryuja. I found myself doing this a couple times where I would just get 4 monsters on my side of the field turn 1 and just going to Saryuja to fix my hand. Because you're opening like end board like on your side of the field, not your hand, but your end board itself. It doesn't always matter that much because usually it comes down to more what you have in hand, which is more important, and if you can just like out-resource your opponent, which usually you can. That gets crazy fast. So sometimes it's just okay to make Saryuja and pass sometimes. Usually you don't want to do that, but sometimes you can just do that and it's fine. 1 Ding Girsu. Ding is pretty good, non-targeting removal. This deck has a lot of non-targeting removal, but if you need to remove more stuff, you can overlay up into the sky, and you're just set. 1 number 38. This card is super good. Not the best XYZ you're playing. I actually found myself making number 38 the least throughout the day, just because a lot of decks can just play around this guy, and you need other stuff to really back it up. But if you make him like turn 2 or turn 3, that can also sometimes matter. But yeah, turn 1, it's like you have to go for other stuff, I think. Here's the best one. The best one all day long was Coach King. I almost want to play 2 of this dude. It's so good. And the reason is that it requires 3 level 8 monsters, and you can detach material from him, and draw a card and reveal it. If it's a monster, you burn your opponent for 800. So, yeah, there's actual ways to win in time with this deck, just with Coach King, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, it's kind of taking on probability, but, because the monster count in this deck is super low. But you're almost guaranteed to hit at least 1 monster at some point with this guy. So, yeah. And to that, it was good. But yeah, just really the best card in the extra deck. Almost just the best card you could go into. Just really, really strong. The draws are really nice. This card can just unbrick a hand. You see King Sark plus bricks. You just send all the other cards you can't play to the graveyard, go into this guy, and then just combo from there. 1 Typhon. I haven't played with this card previously in this build, and I kind of threw it in last minute because I don't have an SP. And I decided to play him. This card actually came up quite a bit. The really nice thing that I did throughout the day that I kind of learned as I was going was just making Ding. And then going up into this dude after making Ding, it's like the last summon. And so you get 2 ways to remove cards just with this. So really, really nice. Honestly, just a really good card. And also, walking out monsters 3,000 or more attack. This deck doesn't really have very many monsters with 3,000 more that you can either make or summon. So, yeah, it's actually pretty good. Then for the Runics, 2 Hugin, that's all you need. 1 Gary, all you need. And then 1 Sleipnir, which is just all you need. You just need 4. I found myself making Hugin the most, followed by Giri, followed by Sleipnir. I made this do it once today. And then in the next turn, I just linked it off because the card is a good card, but just wasn't really doing anything all day. Then for the side deck, it's going to be pretty basic. 3 Nib is just going to be really generic stuff for this format. 3 Gamma Seal, get rid of problem boss monsters. 3 Cosmic, just good. I never really found myself going to time with this deck because you win in the first 2 turns, or sometimes 3 turns, but you never really find yourself going to time. The closest I got to time all day was like 4 minutes, 5 minutes off from time. You just don't go in time with this deck. You're winning the game or you're losing the game really fast. 3 Evenly Matched. This card can be really good. Of course, your battle phase, you almost never get to use it, but your opponent's battle phase is a thing, so that's cool. It didn't really come up too much doing it that way, but, turn 1, your opponent goes first, builds a board, and you can just throw down evenly, bait a negate, or just clear their board, and then just go from there. So this card is just as a way of bait negates is just really good. And then finally, 3, there can be only one. I almost want to main deck this card. This card is insane in this deck. Nothing really shares anything. You're never making anything that shares another type with another monster. So this card's just really good. I would almost main deck it, but game 1, you just want combo. You just want combo and win through by doing that. And you can play through a lot of boards with this deck through like the Runic stuff. So this is just better as a side deck card. And then also like the only card that this deck really struggles against. Actually, there's 2 cards. There's really only 2 cards, which is Evenly Matched, which no one I didn't get Evenly today, or while playing this deck. So that never came up. But Evenly Matched can hurt in some scenarios. And then the other card is D-Shifter. I not get D-Shifted. Those are like the only 2 cards that you really just outright lose to, where you have to like really do not do anything for a turn or 2. So those hurt, but I didn't see those. I had been preparing all day to face cards like that. So it's kind of nice not playing against those types of cards. That felt pretty good. So matchup wise, ended up going X-1, won every single matchup. And I did a lot of testing online. Like, probably one of the easiest matchups, surprisingly, is Tyrrelment. Because Tyrrelment goes through their deck so quickly, and this deck gets to so many Runic cards that if they go first or even second, you can just deck them out. You can just deck them out super fast. The matchup is hardly even real with this deck, which is just really funny to say because the other versions of Runic might struggle a little bit. So, you know, that's pretty nice that this deck can just kind of play through that matchup super easily. Fortunately, I didn't play against any Tyr, which was like the one matchup I was like, ooh, that seems like a fun day for me. However, for my matchups, first round played against Horus, Bystial Horus, Horus Bystial, basically carbon copy of like the one of the deck list from the YCS, and getting that, ended up winning that 2-1. Round 2 was my only loss of the day, which was to Purrely. The only reason like I really lost that matchup was just game 3, just couldn't see side deck stuff. Didn't see my side deck, and they built too much of a board, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But it was still a good matchup, good back and forth. And this deck, I was surprised that in one of the games, this deck was just able to play through Noir, like, which was really cool to see that this deck can actually do that. Because that was like one of the cards I was a little bit worried about, but hey, still lost, but that's fine. Round 3, ended up playing, what did I play against round 3? So for that round, I'm forgetting what deck I played against. Wow. Anyways, round 4, played against TG Synchron, TG Synchron with the Diabellstar package. So I was also a little bit worried about the Diabellstar stuff. That was a little bit of a worrying matchup, but ended up getting that one 2-0, so that definitely felt good. Oh yeah, round 3 played against Dinomorphia, which the Dinomorphia match was relatively pretty easily. Just decked them out every single time in 2 turns, so that felt pretty good. Except for game 2, they did flip up an anti-spell, and that was a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, those were all the rounds. It was a 23-person tournament. It was, 23 or 21. It was pretty good size. That was nice to see that this deck was able to compete. Ended up getting around 4th or 5th overall. I'd had to go back and check the exact standings, but deck did what it was supposed to do. Just really saw it all together, and there's room for improvement, obviously, with this deck. There's things I would change, and yeah, in the future I'll probably give more updated deck lists on this deck, but yeah, did really well. Thank you for watching.